did your pitching session go?
It went really well, and both the teams. The other team with the alpinists, and I'm always like a mountain person in comparison to a beach person. So I was really excited to watch their pitch as well. So they did a fantastic job. And they said it was really competitive because this year there were proposals from around the world, and it was really challenging to pick the final two people. It was really hard and heartbreaking as well. There was really interesting pitches from all around the world. So that's what I heard. But what they told us was it was moving and it was different because it had an element of music as well as medicine.
Fantastic. So let's step back a little bit. I wanted to ask you what brought you to think about the intersection of music as a preventive measure, especially in palliative care. I read some of your interviews, and I believe your grandmother suffered from cancer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I was 5 years old, and one of my earliest memories is waking up in the middle of the night, listening to my grandmother screaming with back pain because she had this acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So the time she was at home, my mother and my maternal uncles used to play classical music. In the olden times, we used to have this tape recorder from radio with the
Right.
big sonic reminders. So they used to play this particular composition called Mahaganapatim, which is in Nat. That kind of was offering some amount of comfort. I mean, we are talking about like bone pain. Nothing can, except for, high dose analgesics, nothing can lower that amount of pain. But her anxiety and her stress, to some amount, some minute amount, that music was helping her cope with that stress and anxiety. And witnessing this, my uncle thought I should learn music, and he was really interested. So what he, in every vocal or veena class, he would sit throughout that period of time. He don't sing, but he just sit and listen. I think it all roots back to this particular anxiolytic impact of music that his mother was able to experience, and that's everything roots back to that. His interest in music roots back to this particular moment and experience. So anyway, so I was put into vocal classes and the veena classes when I was 7 years old. I kept performing, and as a young child I used to perform in this invited national music festivals. I used to run this levels of youth festival, which is school level, then sub-district, then district, and then state level. So winning at that was like a big deal. So I was completely focused on, that performance area. And when I joined medical school, it was definitely, you have to focus on studies. There was no time for me, at least, to travel and perform. And then in my final year of medical school, two things happened. One, I went to the US and for 9 months of clerkships. That was at Harvard, Stanford, Cornell, and a couple of other places as well in Florida and here and there, but mainly Harvard, Stanford, and Cornell. And I was always inclined towards oncology as a specialty.
Where in the US were you studying?
So I went to Harvard Medical School.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, and to be very specific, I was at the Beth Israel Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center of Harvard.
Right.
And then at Stanford, I was at their Stanford Cancer Center, SCC. And at Cornell, I observed was like I walk into a hospital reception, the lobby, or a chemotherapy room, or a war area, anywhere and everywhere there was music, be it passive music or live music. There'll be a grand Steinway piano, and somebody will be playing, either a musician or somebody will come and play, or a cello or something like that. that for me was a massive realization, and kind of an epiphany that, oh my god, like Western classical music is amazing, and so, it's incorporated into the healthcare infrastructure so beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I met my mentor, who is Dr. Anthony D'Amico. He is the professor of radiation oncology at Harvard Medical School. And he was the first person to guide me to a music therapist, who receives the NIH funds for her research on music therapy. And she is, I think, the top, one of the topmost people in researchers in the field of music therapy. My mentor, Dr. Anthony D'Amico, he's the one who said, why don't you explore the intersection of music and medicine, because you're passionate about music and also about cancer care and palliative care. So why don't you connect both? And then when he directed to Yoka Brat, so she's at Drexel, she's a professor of music therapy, and she kind of opened a whole new different world to me, about music therapy and what is music therapy. It is not just merely providing some music, or a pop album to a patient and then them feeling better about it. It's not that. It's basically years of research you do on patients, on a particular music or something of that sort, because it's very important. Sometimes it's like, oh, music, I mean, I don't think anyone will get any kind of side effects with music, so let me give any music. No, it doesn't work like that, because music is heavily associated with autobiographic memories. This particular topic is a still, it is an evolving area of research, it's an expanding area of research. So the two evidences that's mostly the researchers are focusing on is one, clinical research where they gave providers selected music and versus patient selected music. So what they found was patient selected music had more impact in reducing anxiety, reducing stress, reducing whatever parameters they checked. In that, they found patient preferred music definitely had and kind of dominated in comparison to the researcher selected. The other one is very interesting. It's a 2023 article.
Mm-hmm.
I was also really, really surprised and pleasantly surprised with that paper. It said in Alzheimer's disease, uh,
Mm-hmm.
losing disease, it is said that the memory associated with music, even if it is from childhood,
Mm-hmm.
it is what do you call, it is protected in Alzheimer's, as in, like, if every memory goes or many memory goes, this musical memory, the memory that's associated with music, remains,
Hmm.
um or it get protected, or it just stays in place. Anyway, so I had these concerns in the US, and that's why when I returned, I started this advocacy program called as Oncology and Strings. I started basically at Stanford's University campus, and then I launched it in India. It's basically a lecture concert program where I travel with my own money. There is no funding. It's completely voluntary, out of my pocket. I travel to these places in India, conferences, palliative care conferences, cancer centers, medical schools, and I have two communities that I'm primarily trying to address. One is medical student, oncologist, and the palliative care physician, that community, where I'm
Mm-hmm.
encouraging them to come up with design good quality randomized controlled trials. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, but we need to create evidences to investigate the effectiveness of music. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure it will be effective, but it's just that we need to have evidence. Music medicine is different from music therapy. Music medicine is basically healthcare providers providing music to patients. That could be any music, but preferably and most preferably patient selected music.
Yeah, you've got about 800 million people who have limited or no access to healthcare. And yet, this is a very simple solution, right? Everybody has access to music at their. Does this have to be implemented solely in a healthcare setting? For example, just play music for my mom who's got cancer. And she may never see a hospital, but am I able to, in some way, improve the quality of her life, uh, uh, even though she is ill, simply by playing music that she enjoys?
I guess no, because unfortunately, no, because the when we are talking about pain, we're talking about pain from cancer, and the kind of analgesics we give in cancer is also really high dose, and you can imagine what kind of this medication is going to calm, reduce their pain. It's really high dose analgesics. So listening to music alone is not, so whatever I'm speaking about, music therapy or music medicine, is as an adjunct to the primary standard treatment, which includes analgesics, which includes anxiolytics that reduce, diazepams that reduce anxiety, that reduce stress. All of that, in addition to that music, that's very important. That's very important, and it needs to be very clear.
Play the vina when you've played the vina at geriatric hospitals, when you've played for oncology patients, what do you notice happens to them? If you could maybe share anecdotally how they experience your music.
I had one very good experience where a patient told me that I have a video footage of that as well. So she said the whole day was going crappy because she went back to the doctor's office, and I mean, she had cancer, and the doctor said something which wasn't a favorable thing. um, and anyway, she was really upset and anxious about that, and she came home, and there was this, so that concert was arranged by a hospital, a hospital's palliative care department. So she attended the concert, and she said, I feel 60% of my anxiety is gone. Thank you for your music. And yeah, that's what she said. But I didn't get a chance to play in person yet. It's all like I started in 20 no, I did play in 2020, 2019 throughout, but since 2020, 2021 and now 2023, it's all virtual, and it helps me focus on my PhD as well, because I have a PhD also going on. So it's more virtual. I do get feedbacks like this, that the music was helpful in reducing their stress.
So just to follow up on a question that I asked earlier, how can a layperson implement, some of what you've learned here in their own lives and with family members?
I think the best strategy I have said to any platform, like as a closing remark, is embrace your creative outlets as much as you can. And for many people, if it might be music, and some people it's painting, or some people whatever their creative outlets are.
It was such a pleasure speaking with you, Dr. Rajendran. Thank you so much for taking the time, and best of luck.